former chair of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel, is back in the political mix. She was at the helm of the RNC from 2017 through 2024, but resigned after a campaign from conservative activists and influencers like Charlie Kirk pushed her out.
Shortly after, she landed a paid contributing gig at NBC News, but the network cut ties with her after a chorus of their on-air hosts complained about her hiring. But now, McDaniel is back in the political arena, teaming up with the DeVos family to turn her home state of Michigan, my home state as well, quote, reliably red. She's currently the CEO of Michigan Forward Network, and she joins us now to discuss. Welcome to Rising. Great to be with you.
Great to be with you. Great to be with a fellow Michigander.
Yes, we were just reminiscing about our...
we were talking about our accents and that we say pop instead of soda. All the Michiganisms.
I didn't know about a Michigander. Now I'm going to make sure I say the right one.
It's a real thing.
Reference.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on in this pivotal swing state, a must-win state for either party.
So Michigan Forward, the organization that I'm running now, we're really focused on state races, state legislative races. So we're not Senate and governor, but Michigan is going to be the focal point of 2026. We have an open governor seat. Gretchen Whitmer can't run again. We have an open Senate seat. Mike Rogers just got the endorsement of Donald Trump, and you'll have a competitive Democrat primary. And then the House will have some really significant races in Michigan. So all eyes will be on Michigan. My organization, we're focused on advocating for conservative policies and electing Republicans to the state Senate and state House.
Now this next chapter is looking totally different for you.
Yes.
From running the RNC, national politics, to being in media and dipping your toe to this. What is it about this pivot, I guess, that's totally different from being involved? And how involved are you in federal Republican politics?
So, it's fun for me because I never left Michigan. Even when I was RNC chair, my kids were in high school in Michigan, my son's at school in Michigan. So it's a state I care deeply about. So it takes me back to my roots. Mm-hmm. I'm working with some of the same people I worked with when I was Michigan chair. So it's more local and it's fun. It's not as intense as RNC. I'm happy to have this opportunity to make my home state better.
So I have to ask about what happened at NBC.
I can't say a word.
Well, then I'll throw some questions at you, and then you can just say can't talk about it.
You're going to get the Heisman on
hear
that
me
one.
rant about it. It was, I did a monologue on the subject. A network's a mainstream media that has press secretaries and political flacks from all parties well represented on the networks. Jen Psaki has her own show. But it's beyond the pale for someone who was recently working as a high profile to elect Republicans, can't be a respected face in the media. Maybe if you can't comment on your specific situation, maybe you can comment on how the media in general is receptive to conservative personalities.
Well, I will say I think this is changing after this election, right? So Trump won. So I do think there's a shift after the fact to say, how do we start hearing voices from both sides of the aisle? Because we really are a 50-50 nation. And we are better off having a conversation and understanding at least how each party views issues. And I think that's good. It didn't work in my case, but I applaud that that's something that's happening more and more now.
CNN in particular seems to have been putting more actual Republican, not just I was a Republican 50 years ago and I hate Donald Trump and I hate everything Republicans do, but I'm technically a Republican. I get a cush speaking job on cable news. I'm seeing on CNN actual conservatives who agree with actual Trump policies. It seems like maybe they're getting it. I don't know.
I think it's always a good thing to increase your market share and say, how do we appeal to more of the voters? And I actually think voters want to see a more respectful dialogue. I think that's what News Nation brings. They want to see talking about the issues, but not yelling at each other and destroying each other and this destruction politics that we've seen in the media. The media has really led the way on that. And I think pulling that back and saying, let's actually learn how voters feel about issues through a productive conversation is a good thing for all of us.
Now, some of the critiques during that whole period that was probably more tumultuous for you than us reporting on it at NBC,
sure was.
right? There was a lot about what happened around the 2020 election and your closeness to it. Is there any part of you looking back that's like, well, on my end, I could have handled some of these things differently?
I'm trying to just move forward, and I'm not looking back at that chapter. I'm glad it's resolved. I'm glad that we found a way to get out of that. But I'm always going to be proud of the work I did at the RNC and pushing conservative values. And I think we did that. I mean, I think lowering taxes is a good thing. I think deregulation is a good thing. Energy independence is a good thing. School choice is a good thing. The things that we stand for as a party, I'm really proud of. And the RNC, during my tenure, created a small dollar fundraising mechanism. We started Bank Your Vote to get voters to start doing absentee voting. That was very successful this cycle. And I think the thing we did most successfully is we started reaching out to minority voters, which we'd never done. We had offices in Texas and in California where we were really talking to Latino and Asian and African American voters in a way that was meaningful, doing school drives, back to school drives, being part of the community. And I think you've seen this last election that growth in these communities because of the investment we made at the RNC.
That's a great point. A lot of it is chalked up to the Trump campaign's media strategy, doing all these podcasts.
They did a lot of things right too. Yeah.
But it is really remarkable, to see the growth and success that Republicans had this cycle with the voters you're describing, with young people in general, particularly young males, African American males, Latino males. Is that what can and what should the Republican Party be doing to make that a durable phenomenon rather than just a one-off quirk of Trump really going on Joe Rogan this one time?
I mean, Trump is so unique.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever see a political character like him again in our lifetime. I really don't. And he crosses so many lines. He's more than just a Republican. He's an entertainer. He's a fighter. Voters view him as authentic. So I don't know if you can replicate it with every other candidate. What I will say is Republicans were reaching out to other voters, and I think the Democrats made mistakes saying, we don't want RFK to debate Joe Biden. We don't want to hear about getting rid of dyes in our food and these things. So if they'd have allowed him a platform and actually let him debate Joe Biden, they may have brought him into the fold and brought those young voters. I was saying my son, who's 20, a lot of his friends were RFK supporters.
Absolutely.
So when he went to Trump, they followed.
Yep.
My son was probably already with Trump, but I think that was a mistake on the Democrats, that they were pushing people away where Trump was saying, let's bring them all in.
Do you look at some of this year and some of the policies that and the promises also from the election and see that that's starting to naturally wear off? We're starting to get the polls come in and people saying how they feel about things, and they fluctuate. And also Americans, the big thing that Trump won on was because of the economy was so tight. People wanted relief. That relief is not fully here. Do you think that all the promises are being followed through, or what can still be worked on?
I think the border was so huge, and what's happening with immigration was such a driving focus of this last election, and he delivered on that right away. It's interesting, Lindsay, I'm doing this work with this new organization, Michigan Forward, and we've really been talking to Michigan voters in preparation for this next election, and they are very solid with Trump still. They are very happy with what he's done. Even the generic ballot, where Democrats are usually way ahead in going into a midterm, they're not way ahead. They're, +2? This is something we haven't seen. The Democrat Party's struggling. They don't have an image. Who's their leader? Who's their voice? And I think most voters who voted for Trump on immigration and crime and the economy are feeling like he did the right thing because gas prices are lower. Inflation's not taken off at the way that people thought. And in Michigan, the tariffs are pretty popular because we have a lot of auto workers who want to see more jobs come back to our state.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and Michigan is, again, going to be such a bellwether. It is Michigan and Pennsylvania are the must-win states.
Right.
If you don't have a strategy to win there going into the next election, I don't know, you've not been paying attention to the last 3 different presidential elections. That's why, Gretchen Whitmer, like Josh Shapiro, could be a presidential candidate or a vice presidential candidate. I don't know what they were thinking not picking Josh Shapiro last time. You have to win this state.
I think a lot of Democrats think that, but Gretchen Whitmer's, I believe, absolutely running for president.
Yeah.
I can't understand why she's coming and meeting with Trump over and over again unless she's trying to go to the middle like Newsom did, and that's part of her strategy. She's very popular in our state, but our state is second in unemployment, second in the nation in unemployment, and right now 3 out of 4 fourth graders cannot read at grade level. So our state is really failing under her. It's, I think education's such a huge issue, and it's funny, when we talk to voters in the state, they don't know that record. They don't know that we're second in the nation in unemployment and that kids cannot read. And she repealed a law that required that you can't pass the 3rd grade unless you can read. And I think that's just common sense, that if you're not reading by third grade, you have to learn to read to read to learn, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not reading by third grade, we should be intervening at that point and making sure those kids are not progressing until they have that skill
Well,
set.
and the DeVos family, that's very Michigan focused.
Yes.
Obviously, Betsy DeVos was the education secretary
Right.
in the first administration, so I know they've always prioritized. I interviewed her before about school choice and doing other things that I believe would help kids get a better education, and some that we could push those policies in some of these states.
Yeah, and she was very involved in the ECCA
Yeah.
with bringing grants to kids so they can have better access to good schools, private, public, charter schools. I think we should always be for kids having access to the best education. And that's something that's really important to me. As my kids did go to public school. I'm a public school kid. My kids got a great education in Michigan, but it's something that the DeVos family certainly championed. But I will say Michigan Forward is not just the DeVos family. It's a lot of investors in Michigan saying, we can't keep our state and our policies red unless we invest in a permanent infrastructure. And this is an organization that's going to be there building election after election and not shutting down shop after every election season and losing talent. We're going to be investing. So it's new. We're just starting. This is our first year as Michigan Forward. But that's the goal, is to be consistently working on those policies and keeping Michigan more conservative.
We're kind of getting an idea, and I know we have to go about who on the Democratic side, Newsom, Whitmer, might run for president. Who, if you had to say today, because I know you can give a generic answer, but who is the successor to President Trump?
Oh, it's J.D. Vance. It's J.D. Vance. I mean, I'm a little more nuanced on this. J.D. has actually taken on the role of finance chair for the Republican National Committee. That's never happened, where a vice president has taken that role. So he is out raising money for the party. But not only that, he's interacting with the RNC members who are going to make the rules for the primary for the 2028 presidential election, and they're interacting with the vice president. He is their number one funder, so I think he's got a real leg up heading into 2028.
Yeah, I think there's not a lot of mystery left in that one. Ronna McDaniel, thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you maybe at the Michigan football game.
I would
next
love
season.
it. I'm a season ticket holder, so I'd love to see you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks
Our
for coming
pleasure.
on.
Thank you. Well, we've got a lot more to talk about on Rising. Please stay with us.